Les estamos hablando desde el día después al Gran Apagón, eso que ya se va a conocer como tal a partir de ayer y que por causas aún, cuando esto digo, no determinadas, sumió en una falta de iluminación eléctrica a toda la península ibérica, España y Portugal. No es la primera vez que la radio se pone al frente socialmente de dar las noticias puntualmente de lo que está ocurriendo, pero es que lo más maravilloso del asunto es que es con esta humilde transistor, humildísimo transistor de baterías, como yo, concretamente ayer 28 de abril, pude estar al tanto de lo que estaba ocurriendo al respecto de este gran apagón. Ni redes informáticas funcionaban, ni internet funcionaba, ni los móviles, los omnipresentes y omnipotentes móviles funcionaban. Todo un golpe de humildad a todos esos medios y realidades que tan presentes están en nuestro mundo cotidiano, el que ayer nos dio la radio analógica de transistores. Esto ocurrió ya también. Ocurrió el 23 de febrero de 1981 en lo que se ha llamado la Noche de los Transistores, cuando Tejero, con todo un grupo de guardias civiles, asaltó el Congreso de los Diputados y trató de poner a los pies de los caballos, por así decir, a la democracia en este país. Allí, una vez más, fue la radio, o antes que ahora, fue la radio la que mantuvo informada a la población, y toda una serie de emisoras y de grandes profesionales corrieron a cargo de ese trabajo, esa tarea. Pero la radio también, aparte de tranquilizar y aparte de informar, ha de alguna manera desde el ámbito de lo artístico, ¿cómo decirlo?, asustado, aterrorizado, también utilizando, por supuesto, los recursos comunicativos y expresivos del medio. Voy a hablar de dos obras históricas ya, que han desarrollado precisamente esa característica. La primera es Maremoto.
Tu crois que personne ne nous a entendus? Essaye, avec d'autres longueurs. Tu sais, il vaudrait mieux qu'on essaie encore avec 1785. Je ne sais plus comment appeler.
Allô, allô. Ici Paco, ville de Saint-Martin. En détresse par 25 degrés. 15 minutes 25 secondes de longitude nord. Et 14 degrés, 35 minutes 40 secondes de latitude est. Au chronomètre du bord, il est exactement 20 heures, 5 minutes, 5 secondes. Une voie d'eau à bâbord. Nous demandons du secours de toute urgence. Avertissez le port le plus proche.
On peut plus se tenir debout là. Oh.
Qu'est-ce que tu as, Badin?
J'ai cru que je m'étais ouvert le crâne.
Allô, allô. Allô. Ici Paquebot, ville de Saint-Martin. En détresse par 23 degrés. 15 minutes.
Escuchábamos un fragmento de Maremoto de Gabriel Germinet en una recreación de la obra realizada para la radio 25 años después de su creación en el año 1924. La obra debería haber sido emitida el 23 de junio de ese año por Radio París. 2 días antes tuvo lugar un ensayo, pero la antena emisora estaba conectada y de ese azoroso modo los sinilistas, que habían reglado su receptor el 21 de junio, por tanto, en la longitud de onda de Radio París, creyeron estar captando lo que claramente parecía un naufragio. Fuerte ruido de viento, lo hemos tenido ocasión de escuchar en esta recreación, caída de objetos, violentos golpes de mar, señales lejanas de telegrafía en Morse y de improviso una voz que repetía aló, aló, aquí pa' que bote Ville de Saint-Martin en peligro a 23 grados 15 minutos 25 segundos de longitud norte y 14 grados 35 minutos y 40 segundos de latitud este. Una vía de agua se ha abierto a bordo en popa y pedimos socorro con toda urgencia. Por supuesto, la obra no se llegó a realizar porque, y quizá estamos ante uno de los primeros casos de censura radiofónica, porque las autoridades consideraron excesivamente arriesgado esa situación de alarmar a la población con emisiones de esta naturaleza. Es, en todo caso, una realidad esta de Maremoto, previa a la que nos trajo, unos cuantos años después, concretamente en 1938, el gran Orson Welles con La Guerra de los Mundos.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Mercury Theater and star of these broadcasts, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. Near the end of October, business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crosley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Raymond Raquello leads off with La Capacita.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Raymond Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now a tune that never loses favor, the ever-popular Stardust, Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with the noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I'll ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides the ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
Any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be at the point nearest the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips.
They...
Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
I should say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Phillips, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from the Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the Natural History Museum, New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we'll have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music. We take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint for you a word picture of a strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down. But I can see of the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor. At least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. Has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say, what's the diameter of this?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. Its curious spectators now are pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. Getting in front of my line of vision. Would you mind standing one side, please? While the police are pushing the crowd back. Here's Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmot, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? A step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmot.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder, please.
Pardon me?
Louder, please, closer.
Yes. I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsing. That professor fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half chosen and half...
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio... kind of halfway.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot. And then you saw something.
Well, not first off. I heard something.
And what did you hear?
a hissing sound like this. Kind of like a 4th of July rocket.
Yes, then what?
I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was to sleep and dreaming.
Yes?
I seen a kind of greenish streak and then zingo. Something smacked the ground, knocked me clear out of my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmot?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you want me to
No,
tell
that's
someone?
quite all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in a field in back of us, and the police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's no use. They're breaking right through. The car's headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. Now, some of the more daring souls now are venturing near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. The policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please. Do you hear it? It's a curious humming sound that seems to come from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Here. Now, we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Professor Pearson.
Yes, Mr. Gross.
Can you tell us the meaning of that scraping noise inside the thing?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial. Not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth, and you can see its cylindrical
Just a minute.
shape.
Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw, and this thing must be hollow.
He's moving. Keep back there. Keep back there. Keep those men back. Keep back there. Keep those idiots back. Keep off. The top's loose. Look out there. Stand back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute.
Escuchábamos un fragmento, el fragmento inicial realmente de La Guerra de los Mundos, esa adaptación de la novela de H.G. Wells, libérrima adaptación realizada por Orson Welles y su Teatro Mercury en las ondas de la CBS aquel 30 de octubre de 1938, y para quienes siguieron esa emisión y se aterrorizaron con la llegada de los marcianos a Estados Unidos, sin duda fue una vivencia tan fuerte, una experiencia vital tan importante como si hubiera sido verdadera, como la que ayer, por ejemplo, tuvimos en ocasión del Gran Apagón, o como la que hubo el 23F de 1981. La radio en ese punto es capaz, como decía en otro plano Susan Sontag con la fotografía. Ella decía que la fotografía creaba antigüedades instantáneas, y aquí cabría decir, parafraseando un poco esto, que la radio crea historia, hace historia de manera instantánea al transmitir determinado tipo de acontecimientos. Historia ya era esta Guerra de los Mundos de Orson Welles, como decíamos, y también de algún modo hizo historia Rod Summers, el artista británico, cuando, en este caso sí, tomando un informativo verdadero de la BBC, lo adaptó, lo transgredió, se lo reapropió o lo resignificó, colocando de vez en cuando, cada vez que los protagonistas que hablaban en ese informativo decían cualquier tiempo del verbo to say, decir en inglés, él incorporó una voz mecánica completamente inexpresiva que decía I am sad, very sad. Estoy triste, muy triste.
From the BBC Radio Newsroom, this is Harriet Cass with the 6 o'clock news. The Australian Prime Minister has described Nigeria's action as
sad, very sad.
BP's Deputy Chairman says
I'm sad, very sad.
BP's Deputy Chairman, Mr. Montague Pennell, said
I'm sad, very sad.
In effect, the Nigerians are saying
I'm sad, very sad.
The Chairman of the Commission, Professor Hugh Clegg, said today that
I'm sad, very sad.
Mr. Alan Fisher, General Secretary of the Public Employees Union, NUPE, gave this verdict.
I'm sad, very sad.
The government have confirmed that they're
sad, very sad.
The Education Secretary, Mr. Mark Carlisle, has told local authority education chiefs,
I'm sad, very sad.
When it was put to him that one specialist had said that the cuts could lead to the death of 87 of his patients, Mr. Jenkins said,
I'm sad, very sad.
Government ministers have said they're
sad, very sad.
The post office says,
I'm sad, very sad.
All the main sections of the post office were in the black, but the biggest moneymaker was the telecommunications side.
The Roman Catholic bishops in Ireland are still not saying,
I'm sad, very sad.
The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. John Biffin, told MPs that
I'm sad, very sad.
He described the government's broad objective as
I'm sad, very sad.
Are you saying that?
I'm sad, very sad.
But, of course, one still has to be
sad, very sad.
Would you say
I'm sad, very sad?
I think it is likely, and I would welcome it.
I'm sad, very sad.
You're listening to the main news today on Radio 4. Still to come, the Queen Mother makes history at Dover, and the problems facing the new owners of the holy island of Iona. But first, the main points of the news so far. BP's deputy chairman says,
I'm sad, very sad.
The General Secretary of the Society of Civil and Public Servants, Mr. Jerry Gilman, said,
I'm sad, very sad.
In the United States, officials in Congress say,
I'm sad, very sad.
The Foreign Office in London said,
I'm sad, very sad.
South African security forces said,
I'm sad, very sad.
And the guerrillas from the ETA political military movement said they were...
I'm sad, very sad.
The Coal Board made a loss last year of nearly £20 million. This is the first time the industry has been in the red for 5 years, and the chairman, Sir Derek Ezra, said,
I'm sad, very sad.
In the city, the stock market had another sluggish session and shares were
sad, very sad.
The Financial Times Index closed down 1.1 at 455.7. The pound remained
sad, very sad.
Here's a financial report from Peter Linton and Peter Day.
Everyone now agrees that the dollar is steady at the moment. Dealers say it's still
sad, very sad.
But MK Electric, best known for their plugs, said at their annual meeting,
I'm sad, very sad.
And news just in from Lusaka. The Foreign Secretary, Lord Carrington, has confirmed that he is
sad, very sad.
Finally, the main points again. The Americans are reported to be
sad, very sad.
The National Coal Board has reported it's
sad, very sad.
The Basques say they're
sad, very sad.
BBC Radio News.
De 1979 databan estas sad news del artista británico Rod Summers. Y decíamos que la radio es capaz y cómo de crear o de formar parte de nuestra crónica sentimental, y concretamente lo es en la vivencia, en el recuerdo que vamos a continuación a escuchar y con el que cerramos este elogio de la radio que aquí hemos desarrollado, con una vivencia, con un recuerdo que llega en la voz de la artista Concha Jerez.
Recuerdo los sonidos de aquellas emisoras de onda corta que, atravesando fronteras, llegaban en la noche y me hacían sentir el mundo.